Let's move on, friends, to Damian Lillard. He woke up to rumors and printed reports of him requesting a trade on Friday. So, he addressed it in his media availability. Take a listen.
I woke up to those reports. A lot of people reaching out to me. But it's not true. I'll start off the rip and say it's not true. I said the last time I spoke to you guys that a lot of things are being said, and it hasn't come from me. So number one is it's not true. And secondly, I'll also say that I haven't made any firm decision on what my future will be. So there's really no need for anybody else to speak for me or report this or report that. If there's something to be said, as I said the last time, I'll speak directly with my team and with Neil. So that's that.
So interesting perk from Dame, because look, he says that's not true. I did not request a trade. That has not happened in the past couple of days. But he also said, I'm still deciding what my future will be. What's your reaction to that?
Look, he handled that like he was supposed to handle it. He's saying that I haven't requested a trade, but I'm not saying I'm staying in Portland either. That's putting ownership on the front office to make moves. And what I think Dame is going to do, and I told y'all this time and time again, is that he's going to sit back and evaluate what happens in the offseason, and as he should.
No, I agree. I think Dame is actually Dame off the drop, when he first kind of made the request for the coach, and then I think after that he was like, okay, I need to handle this a little bit. And it wasn't like he made a request. They asked him who he would like, or are there some names out there. So it wasn't like he's like, I want this person. So I truly think that Dame is in a very good position, and I think he's handling it the right way. Just basically saying that, look, I'm not saying that I asked for a trade, so whoever's putting that out there is false. But at the end of the day, there are still some things that I need to see before I'm fully committed.
Rachel, I got a question for you and Richard, right? When you look at this roster, the Portland Trailblazer roster as is, and we saw with a different change far as the head of the snake with a coach, what happened with the Clippers, what happened with Atlanta, right? Putting Chauncey in that role, in that seat. Guy that been through the trenches, a guy that Dame is trying to get what he got already, knows the meaning of locking in defensively, right? With this roster constructed, do you think this team that Dame has, if they bring everybody back, could come out of the Western Conference next year?
Oh, he said both of us, but no, I don't. But at the end of the day, if you're committed to something, it's not just in that particular moment. It could be like, hey, we're going to make this decision over the next year or the next season or two. They're not going to be able to retool their whole roster in 5 minutes. They're not going to be able to do it. It's going to take time. It's just a matter of that commitment to the time.
But it is something, it's an interesting point about the change in coach with the same roster, right? And Chauncey being on Ty Lue's staff this past season gave him a front row seat to that. It's also tough to sort of rely only, obviously it's a results-oriented business. I'm not saying wins and losses aren't important, but if you look at this Blazers team, a couple years ago, they were in the Western Conference Finals. Now, that was certainly a great achievement for that roster in that moment. Were they that different from the roster that was a first-round exit both the year before and the year after? Sometimes it's just the way the bracket falls, which is where you end up, and the truth might be somewhere in the middle. So I'm interested in where that is. Also, guys, Dame only controls part of his own destiny here. He's still signed for multiple years, right? So yes, they could trade him, but they could end up trading him to a rebuilding team.
The only way that they could trade him to a rebuilding team is if they trade him early. If you trade him with the last year left on his contract, teams might not want to give him up.
Of course, that's what I mean. But he's still got, I think, our researcher, Michael Schwartz, I think it's 3 years,
Can I say this for everybody?
3 years that he controls.
Let me say this. I'm not saying that Dame won't play on the Portland Trailblazers this year. What I am saying to you, and I haven't spoken to Dame, this is just me watching basketball for 30 years. Dame will not finish this contract in Portland.
You don't think so?
Yes, I'm 41, right? Okay. Dame will not finish this contract in Portland. That's my opinion. I feel like he might give him a year, he might give him this, but at the end of the day, this will be the last stretch that Dame plays in Portland.
That wasn't like nothing hot to put out there.
I'm not saying it was over the top. I'm not saying
everybody's a fan. That's not that great to hear.
We're talking about right now in the moment.
It doesn't matter. Just know the clock has started.
He wants to win right now.
My larger point is that just, quote, requesting a trade does not mean that he's going to get to a contender. I know we saw James Harden get to a very specific place by requesting a trade. That does not always happen, right? So if you're the Portland Trailblazers and Damian Lillard wants out and does go, what he has said he has not done yet, but does go to the front office and says he wants out, they're going to be looking for the best deal they can get, and that might end up being a rebuilding team willing to push all of its picks and everything in the middle to get a Damian Lillard-level player they could never sign in free agency. So I think getting back to this primary issue, getting back to the thing of, hey, did he go request a trade this week or should he in the coming weeks? He has to think through, if he decides to request a trade, what that might mean. That doesn't mean he's necessarily going to a contender.
This year, next year, he ain't ending.
But the Trailblazers got to do right by him. This is a guy that's been loyal, carried them for the last 9 years. I would think they would do right by him.
There's more pressure to do right by him if he is there, and the fan pressure is on them too.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.